I got to the point where I didn't trust even my own body because of these injuries. And I was feeling so much pressure to like meet what he had on my plan that I cared more about turning my training peaks green than I did about paying attention to how I was actually feeling. And that got a little bit scary. So I ended up getting rid of my coach, and I'm considering getting him back because I miss him. He was just so wonderful. I think I'm going to start getting back into triathlon now that I'm marathon retired. So I think I might try to get him back again now that I did the bucket list. I did the Ironman. I got my 6 stars for the World Marathon Majors. Now, like, go ahead and screw up the rest of my body. Who cares now?
It's more than just your output, more than a bike. When you hear your shout out, you know it's all right. Put on your magic pants and let's go. We're cruising into the power zone. Clip in, set yourself free. Come on and take a ride with me. You know what you need to know and what's it all about. Everything you need, it's on the Clip Out.
Welcome to the Clip Out Podcast, episode 284. This is Crystal O'Keefe.
And this is Tom O'Keefe.
I wasn't sure there for a second. I was like, what?
Oh,
what
no,
episode?
I'm Tom O'Keefe.
I didn't know what episode it was.
Oh,
I know
okay.
you're Tom O'Keefe.
Okay, I was going to say, that's a little hurtful.
Yeah,
after
I
all
know
this
you're my
time.
husband.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like,
That would be hurtful.
do you not listen when you edit these things? I don't understand what's going on. So, well, you should be in a very good mood today.
I am cautiously optimistic. I have learned not to get ahead of myself,
But you got your notification that your rower is en route.
I did. I got the email last week saying that it was ready to be scheduled. Had a little weirdness with the scheduling, but I contacted people. They took care of it right away.
Everything got fixed?
They said, "Oh, we got this. This is a very odd little thing. We got it." And now my rower is supposed to be here Monday morning.
Look at that.
Well, they said Monday. I added the morning.
Right.
It's never good enough.
Yes. This is a window into what it's like being married to Clip Out Crystal.
I'm really not like that. They just said Monday, and it's like a huge window. It's basically all day. So who knows when it'll be here.
For sure. But that's great. It's
so great. And it's really cool because they said December.
Yeah, they're ahead of schedule. So let's give them a hat tip for that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And they have started. It's not like it's like 1 or 2 people. It seems to be quite a chunk of them. So what it looks like to me is that there were, I don't know how many orders got placed for the row that were pre-orders, but it looks like they're kind of like chunking it out and sending those out in waves so that everybody is getting those by the end of December that did the pre-order by a certain cutoff date. So I'm really excited about that because I look back at like how the Tread Plus rolled out and let me tell you, this is night and day different.
Yeah.
First it was, hey, it's coming. You can now think about it and tell us that you would like to order it, which I did immediately. And then it was a year later. It was a year before I got that Tread Plus.
And lots of people were getting them before you got yours.
So many people. I mean, I ordered it the second you could order. And like every single person on the planet got their Tread Plus before I did.
And now you're the only person in the world left with a Tread Plus.
Nah, there's a lot of people hanging on to them for dear life.
I thought it was funny.
There's a lot of people in my that are in the same boat as me.
But yeah, so you should start seeing people posting about their rowers next week.
Yeah, lots of people. I saw lots of people have delivery notifications for next week, and including Eric Goodman, who I heard won the Peloton Row, which is amazing because he also won the Peloton Tread.
What are the odds? Especially when there was no contest to give one away.
I know, right? That's for Mrs. Goodman.
Yes.
To the rest of the world, there is no contest.
Yes.
It's all a joke just for Eric.
Yes. Don't think you missed something.
You did it.
Yeah. We'll still get an email.
I know.
This is an outrage. So what, pray tell, do you have in store for people
I don't
this
know.
week?
Stop sharing your screens. I can see my list. There we go. Well, I listened to a Web3 thing today. That was on Twitter Spaces. So we're going to talk about that. It's specific to Robin, not just like a general Web3.
Gotcha.
And then there is a lot of information happening about Peloton, the marketing campaign that just came out. There's some interesting news where Affirm is, and then there's new content that dropped, a whole bunch of new stuff. There's lawsuit updates that we got to do. We got a visit from Dr. Jenn. Help, my husband just discovered Peloton and he's better at it, so we got to get into that. And no, it's not Tom.
No.
And then we also have a visit from Angelo. And we're going to talk about how you can increase protein without increasing cholesterol.
Okay.
We've got celebrity visitors. Well, no.
We don't have visitors.
No.
But celebrity news.
Celebrity news.
Yes.
And then there's just a bunch of little in case you missed it stuff.
Awesome. Well, before we get to all that, shameless plugs, don't forget we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find a podcast, you can find us. While you're there, be sure and follow us so you never miss an episode. Maybe leave us a review. We have a new review.
We do.
This is from Pre-Run Donut.
Darcy.
And it says, I came for the Peloton content, but I stay for the professionalism and fun.
Aww.
Together, Crystal and Tom have created a fair, thorough, and organized package.
Oh, God.
Well, that's what I do.
She didn't say, package.
No.
That was all Tom.
You're welcome. That keeps me up to date on all things Peloton while also satisfying
my God.
need for good quality all around. One of my favorite aspects of the show is that Crystal advocates for the perspectives and experiences of people from all across the Pelo spectrum.
Aww.
So anyway, it's a pretty lengthy review, which is wonderful to read, and I'm sure very helpful for people that come along after you. So we won't do all of it, but thank you so much for the wonderful review. That's very nice.
I read that one. It was really, really kind. Thank you so much, Darcy.
Yeah. And you can also find us on the Facebook.com/
Where are you, Tom?
Where am I? / the clip out. While you're there, like the page, join the group. Don't forget we have a Patreon, patreon.com/ the clip out. So for $5 a month, you get ad-free content, and we also will push it out a little early. When we get it early, you get it early. And also for a little bit more, you get bonus episodes, things like that. You get your own private Facebook clip out Patreon group where you can come and hang out and interact. That's fun as well. And we have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/ the clip out, where you can watch all these episodes. And finally, don't forget, if you want to get the links and stuff sent directly to you, you can sign up for our newsletter at theclipout.com. So there's all of that. Let's dig in, shall we?
We shall.
Peloton in the news.
Peloton has launched their holiday marketing campaign.
They did.
With two, not one, but two new commercials. I guess only one unless you travel back and forth between the continents.
They're tiny.
Yes, they are. For people looking on YouTube.
Yeah. They made a little Robin and a little Alex and a little John Hoskins and a little tiny Hannah Frankson. And they're really adorable. But it's the whole gist of the ad is that you watch Peloton, you get inspired by Peloton, and then you take those lessons, those inspirations that you get from the instructors, and you use it in your everyday life. In this particular example, to get ready for your family coming over for the holidays when you have done apparently nothing and they're arriving in 30 seconds. So
yeah,
it's not as cute as some of the other ones, but I like it. And I definitely like that they have a UK version and a US version. I thought it was interesting that we had kind of like thought about why were they all out in LA a little bit ago. Clearly it was to do this commercial. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good to know that there is some sort of marketing campaign, because they talked about how they're not focusing on growth at the moment, but that doesn't mean they're completely ceding the territory of advertising at the holidays.
But what's interesting about it is there's still pretty high focus on the bike. Like you don't really see the other products that they offer. I mean, there's a little bit of it, but not very much. I just think that's kind of interesting.
So my theory there is that, you know, now they're at a moment where they need to shore up their core brand, and the bike is the easy sell for them. You know, and I think that if they want to gin that up, so they're focusing on bike stuff.
But they keep talking about how they need to lean into this and lean into that.
Right.
So you'd think there was a little more of the leaning.
I
But
get
maybe
that.
that's to come. I don't know.
I think it's to come as well. I think right now it's like shore up your core product, get more people into that ecosystem. Maybe you sell them another product later. I think it's a little bit more of an education to sell somebody on a guide, to sell even on a tread, because people aren't used to treads having classes. Like treads are a kind of a solitary experience, right? The loneliness of the long distance runner. And that's either a poem if you're educated, or if you're like me, it's an Iron Maiden song. But
Or both.
Or both. No, I don't know the poem. I just know the Maiden song.
Oh, okay.
Because I like to rock.
I just thought some people might know both.
Oh, I guess some people
guess
might.
it
Like
wasn't
old
just
fancy pants
you,
out there,
you
like
know?
to go slumming it in the world of metal. But still, like I think you got to educate the runners that because I think so many runners feel like I don't need a class. I know how to run. Like you put one foot in front of the other, soon you'll be walking out the door. Wait, no, that's Jack Frost. So
where are you today? What is going on in that
the
brain?
holidays? I was quoting a Christmas special.
I don't
Remember
know,
that one?
huh?
Put one foot in front of the other. Come on, Rankin Bass.
I know it, but you're just all over the place today.
Anyway, you don't have to educate people on bikes, right? They know spin classes. I don't know if they can say spin legally yet or not.
Nah, they can't.
But people know what it is, and it's an easier pitch. And I think sell the thing that you're good at selling, and worry about the other thing when you fix this stuff. That's my theory.
All right.
So Affirm stock price has plunged towards a record low.
I love the language on all these articles.
And so Affirm looked around and said, that's Peloton's fault.
They did. Yeah, they sent out a shareholders letter as part of their, the huge, whenever you do these little not marketing, but
earnings reports. Yeah.
And they didn't name Peloton in the shareholders letter, but they did say that there was one particular earnings partner that had basically not done as well as they thought they would.
They said, we don't want to name any names because we'd hate to embarrass Peloton.
Yeah.
But.
And then on the call, they were like, yeah, it's all Peloton.
Hey, between you and me.
And the whole world. But I have to say, I wanted to talk about this because when you hear that, it makes it sound like I guess what we ought to do is talk about the numbers here, and it's all below. So I don't remember the numbers, but it's something like last year and the year before it was like in the 20s, the 20%. And this year they're saying that the GVM, whatever the heck that is only going to be 2% in the first quarter of 23. So what I found interesting about that is that makes it sound like that's because that's how little Peloton is selling.
Right.
But I don't think that's the whole story.
Right.
Peloton has completely shifted how they're selling.
Right.
And so now that they're selling at Dick's Sporting Goods and Amazon, the money structure is different. They don't need Affirm for those types of, at least the Amazon sales, they don't need Affirm at all. And so I think that's different. And then you made a good point whenever I was telling you that this morning. You made another good point about what else you think that's going on there.
The bike rental program that they were saying is going way better than they had anticipated. Well, if you're renting the bike, then you don't need Affirm for that, right?
Exactly.
So so are Peloton sales down? Absolutely. We're not
no one's trying
to tell you that Peloton sales aren't down, but to say that Peloton sales have dropped so much that it's crippling Affirm. Well, I don't know that that's entirely accurate, because there is a smorgasbord of reasons. Because yes, sales are down. You can get it from Amazon. You can get it from Dick's, which may or may not use Affirm, and then finally, of course, you can rent a bike, and which wouldn't involve Affirm at all.
Yeah.
So I think those things working in concert have taken a bite, but I don't think you can lay it solely at the feet of declining sales.
I agree. And I just felt like that was important to cover, because I think that people just put these headlines out there and they don't really think about how that sounds. So just thought we should put a little context around that for anybody that bothers to listen.
You're so optimistic.
I know. I've had a lot of things be very not optimistic this week, so I'm trying.
So it was announced this week that Peloton has partnered with the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation to have accessible content, and Logan is taking the lead on that.
He is, yeah. It's the first seated adaptive program, and it's a whole bunch of classes. I want to say there's like 8 or 10 classes just that were all seated, but they also have another piece of it that are classes that are going to be things like with Ross Rayburn, for example, that's meditation for caregivers. Like they have another 20 classes that are a bunch that are directed towards caregivers.
Oh, that's
and that's in recognition of National Family Caregivers Month. So I thought that was really cool. It's like you have these two things happening. There's 10 classes for the adaptive strength, but then also taking care of the caregivers that are out there caring for people.
Yeah.
I thought that was really nice.
Absolutely.
So very cool, very cool. I really applaud this. I love seeing things like this, and I love seeing these collaborations because it's something that if you are not in the community, you don't think that Peloton would do. And it's something that you almost have to look for. If you're a person who needs these adaptive classes, you'd have to go looking for them. So I like that you can go find it by looking in the programs and the collections. They're right there. Easy to find.
So speaking of partnerships, Peloton is teaming up with Sporting Equals, which is part of Black History Month in the UK.
It is, and it's also part of the Peloton Pledge. So they've been working with Sporting Equals since 2021, and this actually came out as part of that ESG report that we covered last week.
Okay.
But I thought it was really neat to be able to see that that this particular partnership is having quite a impact. They've had the program has successfully partnered with 13 different organizations, and there's 17 different sports and physical activity programs for adults and ethnically diverse communities. So I thought that was pretty cool. The program has reached over 970 participants, 713 of whom are women.
How about that?
Very cool.
So last week, Peloton rolled out an apparel shopping link on the bike.
Yeah, this was pretty cool. So as of last week when we were doing our research, this was available on 2 different classes, and that was all that we could find it on. One was like Emma's class, and then there was another class, and it just said shop Emma's look or shop Leanne's look, and that's what it said. And then what you do is you would click on it to say, yes, I want to see it, and then it would send an email to you with links for the apparel that they were wearing. So we put together a little article about it, and some of the things to consider are they going to do this across the board? I think this is one of A/B testing for Barry,
But I can't imagine this wouldn't roll out completely at some point, because to me it's just low-hanging fruit. Like, my question was, why weren't they doing this 5 years ago?
A lot. There were several people that asked that question whenever I posted that. There were also several people that said, I don't want this when I'm exercising.
So to those people, in fairness, I just want to say,
yeah, that was what I said too.
Like, I don't even understand. Like, some people just I just think they like to masturbate to the idea of being mad about something.
I know.
Like, because I'm just like, oh my God, who doesn't sell you t-shirts? Your favorite band, your favorite sports team.
Well, my issue with it is it's not why you're exercising. There's 45 seconds in the class left. Like, really, what is that doing? How is that ruining your experience?
And
if you don't want to click on it,
don't
hide it.
Hide it. It's not a big deal. Yeah.
And especially to all the people who I have said, well, I can't stand when my stalker keeps sending me stupid high fives, and they're like, just ignore it. Well, then you just ignore the stupid link. How about that?
But yeah, like, I don't, to me, this should have zero controversy about it. Like, this is a smart idea that again, my only complain about it is that it's so obvious it should have existed years ago, and I think it will generate a lot of revenue for a company that everybody says needs to find new ways to make money,
but not a way they didn't think of, Tom. Not a way they don't approve,
right?
So
but
just settle down.
I'm like, oh yeah, you can buy it. And people want to buy the things
they do
that they're wearing. They want to buy that. Now if you're a guy, You maybe don't.
That's a question, right?
Yeah.
Like so far, this has only been tested on women's apparel.
Right.
Will it be tested on men's apparel? That's one of the questions that I have.
Yeah.
And another question I have is, will we see non-Peloton apparel? Because a lot of the instructors, the rule has typically always been, and maybe this has changed.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, it's always been you have to wear at least one Peloton thing.
That's fair.
More than fair.
Yeah.
But if they're wearing something that is like Peloton on the top, Adidas on the bottom, are they going to put an Adidas link in? And then how does that work whenever all the other instructors have all these deals with all these other companies?
Yeah.
Who gets treated fairly? Who's not treated fairly?
Well, see, here's what I think happens, or what I would be structuring is then, once they do this right and they establish that it works, because my guess is it will.
Agreed.
Right. Then maybe it's like, okay, Adidas, we will also put in a link for your leggings that match our shirt. But, we get 15% or whatever, they start selling that link, and there's a way to make revenue in a way that isn't necessarily intrusive. And if somebody doesn't want to do it, then they just won't include the link. But it's, it's a way to generate some revenue in a fairly turnkey manner.
I agree. I don't see the big deal. And people have been asking for it forever.
Yeah.
Like they're always like, what is
right?
What is somebody wearing? What is Olivia wearing?
We had a whole segment on the show about that until Peloton kind of shut that
Not
Instagram.
Kinda, they just did.
They did.
They shut it down.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are wondering if this is why. Like they've been working on this for a long time.
It would not surprise me.
Maybe.
So here's my question. Are we going to see it for non-apparel stuff? Like buy Tunde's book?
I don't know.
So, I don't know.
I will say that would be not make as much sense to me.
Yeah.
Because this is specifically what an instructor is wearing in this class.
Yeah.
Now, I could see still having it, but like outside of the class. Like right now you go onto the bike and it'll say like, oh, we just launched this new program. That would be the appropriate place for Tunde's book in my mind.
Yeah.
But how do you make it fair to all the instructors? They're all shelling out. They're all like shelling for something. So then where is that like line?
For sure. Like that will be something to sort out. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Also this week, you can now have an all-class selector available in iOS. Did I sound like I knew what I was talking about?
No.
Oh, damn it.
But I like that you tried.
Okay.
So this is funny because this is one that Android has had for months. I know it was like 6 months ago this came out on Android, and I think it's the only time Android has gotten something before iOS.
Yeah.
The only time. And it finally showed up on iOS. Some people are saying they still don't see it. I don't know. You have to have the newest version of iOS for it to work. And for all I know, Peloton is still rolling it out slowly. But it's great to have because it's a pain in the ass to be, if you're on the app, you're like, what classes are happening in the next 6 hours? Now you got to go cycling classes, running classes, meditation classes. So to have this all button, life-changing. I immediately had to tag Gina in it because Gina has been saying this to me probably weekly for about 5 years. Like, why is this not on the app? So as soon as I saw it hit, I was like, Gina, it's finally here.
And now you two have nothing to talk about.
I know. That was it. It's the end of our friendship.
So we had a couple different Peloton pop culture appearances this week.
But this is my favorite.
Yes. So this is a story I broke.
You did.
I broke a story. Woo! It only took 6 years of podcasting.
Good job.
Yeah. So, but there is a Peloton mention in the new Black Panther movie, which opens today, if you're listening on the day this comes out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it is not plot related. It is not even said by a major character. This is not really a spoiler, I don't think, in any way. But you do have a reference from Julie.
But wait, if it bothers you, stop listening.
Yes.
If you don't want to know anything about the movie, please stop.
Just forward ahead, like 60
skip 30 seconds, 45 seconds. You'll be past it.
But Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character makes a suggestive comment and uses Peloton as a punchline in her sexual innuendo.
About things she's writing.
Yes, about things she's writing. So, but anyway, so yeah, I thought it was cool to see Peloton. Now, it was funny because like I'm in the movie, you didn't go with me to this one, and so
you didn't even ask.
You said you didn't want to go. You said how busy your day was.
Whatever. I thought you only had one ticket.
No, like you could have gone. You were just going on and on about how tired you were, and so I just didn't.
It has been a shit week.
Yeah, so I
it's
just
fine.
didn't even put it on you. But yeah, so it's just nice to see that people talk about, is Peloton still relevant?
Yep.
Like, well,
it just made it to the hottest movie franchise in the last 20 years.
yes. So and there's a good chance this could probably even be the highest grossing film of the year, the way things are going. So, no way to take that back. There's no way it's beaten Top Gun Maverick, but
I don't think it can beat Top Gun. I was wondering.
Yeah,
I was like,
wait, what came out? Oh, Maverick. Okay. It could be the second highest grossing movie of the year.
It was really long, though, you said. Like 2 hours and 40 minutes?
2 hours and 40 minutes. And if you haven't seen it yet, there's no end credit sequence.
So don't stay.
Don't stay till the end.
Don't watch all 2 hours and 40 minutes
Right,
and then sit through another 10 minutes of credits.
There is a mid-credit sequence that you definitely want to stay for. But after that, you are done. Beat the traffic. Let the nerds give you the dirty look, and then they'll feel bad for having waited for no reason.
Yeah, they're going to give you that, like,
Yeah.
I go to too many nerd movies.
You're welcome. Also, while we were talking about pop culture appearances from Peloton, they made it yet again into SNL last week.
Yeah. So what did you think of this one?
I didn't even watch the sketch.
I didn't watch the sketch. I just read it, but I was like, I could totally hear it because he was like the guy who plays Biden. What's that guy's name?
I don't know. He's
Okay.
he just started last season.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the guy playing the character of Biden right now, he said that every morning he like takes his life into his own hands.
Tempts fate by riding his Peloton.
Tempts fate by riding the Peloton. And I was like, wow. So heart attack joke 2 weeks in a row. All right.
Yeah. Also, it's like, I don't know how exercise is tempting fate. That seems like that's delaying fate.
It is, but that ever since the stupid thing on Sex and the City, that's what people say. It's just shorthand because it's lazy.
It's an
lazy
easy joke.
But you know what? It's lazy because it's relevant.
Yes.
Just pointing that out yet again.
There is that. There was a Peloton Row Showcase at PSNY.
Yes. And I chose this particular picture because this is all 5 of the row instructors. And Alex posted, the new row instructor, Alex, not Alex Toussaint, he posted that he couldn't wait for all of them to be in the same place to see if they were actually the same height, like in this picture. And spoiler, they're not.
Yes.
Matt is about 8 inches shorter than everybody else.
I feel your pain, Matt.
But it's especially funny because he looks almost the exact same height as Adrian. Adrian is really tall.
Yeah. Well, but they're all kind of floating in the ether. So
you can kind of scoot them around.
Yeah, like maybe Adrian is standing like 8 feet behind everybody else just to create the
I'm
forced
sure they just
perspective.
pulled all these from different places because they haven't been in the same place yet. So, but it's fun. It's fun that people are going to get to go and they're going to get to try it out at Peloton Studios, which is always nice. They're going to get to meet all the instructors. So several people were invited to that. And I'm sure, I know we're going to hear about it because we've got some people that reached out to me. So excited to hear more about that next week.
John Foley is back.
He is.
Dramatic pause. In business, not at Peloton.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. They are launching a direct-to-consumer rug brand. And I say they because there are 3 of the original co-founders of Peloton that are going to be part of this. So,
well, if they need someone to try these out, I mean, I've never really thought about getting a toupee, but if it would help them, I would.
The kind of rugs on your floor.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So I know people are looking at this and going, well, that's weird.
So many people.
Yeah.
So many people really thought they made a lot of funny jokes. I didn't think they were that funny.
Yeah.
Like I'm a little annoyed. Like I'm a little annoyed. Like why are you shitting on this man starting over? Like first you're rude to him for all of the things that are happening, and then you're just like, oh, he made a comeback. Let me shit on that too.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I will say this. Like I look at this and go, is there a demand for that? But you know what? Like a decade ago, people would have said the same thing about a Peloton bike.
Yeah,
So you
how
don't
many
know.
years did it take for him to find funding for Peloton in Silicon Valley because nobody thought that it was
Right.
going to be a thing? And I have no idea if this is
I
going to
don't
be a
either,
good thing
but
or
I
a
just-
bad thing. But I did hear through the grapevine that this is not something that has been in play since he left Peloton. This has been in play for quite a while. That's what I heard. That this has been kicking around his brain. It's been something that's been on his mind that he's wanted to do for quite a while. So I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see, because I know there are other companies that you can buy a rug and it comes to your house and it's
they have
so I
those-
don't know what the difference is.
Well, I think some of it is the it's being sent to your house. It's customizable, and I think the ones you're talking about are the ruggable thing where you can wash it, and I don't think that's what this is.
Okay.
And regardless of whether or not it is going to work, I will say this: he's already raised $25 million for it.
Yeah.
It's more than I've raised.
Yes,
Ever.
for sure.
And I don't know. People seem to have thought that whatever he was going to do next just automatically had to be in fitness. And I think that's why there's so much pushback on this.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm just like, why did you ever think that?
Yeah. Before
Why
this, it was Barnes and Nobles.
Yeah.
What?
He's an ideas guy,
Right.
not just a fitness guy.
Yeah,
he has multifacets, and all of these guys
it'd be
do.
different if he spent his entire career in fitness and now he's like, now here's a rug, and you'd be like, well, what? But he's
He's about solving problems.
Yeah.
Now, the only actual criticism that I saw that I thought was warranted was somebody was like, "This is cronyism at its finest." I agree with that.
No.
I agree with that. I mean, I love Hisao Kushi and John Foley and Uni, but I think that's a valid criticism. I don't think they're doing anything wrong.
No.
But it's the same people have the wealth. The same people are always doing these things.
But there's also, I understand the frustration and I share it a lot of times in other fields, right? But I will also say, when we started doing tonal stuff and we decided to start the superset, we didn't go find other people to host it.
That's true.
Right? We did that. So,
absolutely.
These people are friends, and you tend to work with your friends, which is what I try to impress on our kids so much.
Because it's networking.
Networking is important. So part of the value of going to Harvard, and just to be clear,
our kids aren't going to
Harvard,
no.
right? There's no, but they ain't smart enough and we ain't rich enough. So there's no way that's going to happen. But the part of the advantage of going to a school like Harvard is you're going to be able to network with people who could get into a school like Harvard.
Yeah, and I want to be clear. I'm not saying I personally have a problem with it. I just thought it was the only thing that came out of people's mouths that was actually a valid criticism, and just that it's always the same people, not that they specifically did anything wrong, but just this, it's not fitness, he's fallen so low, this, it was just a lot of really shitty comments from a lot of people.
Welcome to the internet.
I know, but I think the thing is, I don't think they think they're being shitty. I think they think they're being funny, and you know what? I don't even know why I'm critical, why it upsets me, because John Foley's over there making all the cash. He doesn't care. I guess I just take it personally, because what I think bothers me the most about it is people only want you to be successful so long. They only have your back so long. And then as soon as you get to a certain level, they turn on you.
That is always the case. People love to build you up and tear them down. You can watch that cycle in this country over and over and over again.
Yep.
For sure.
Fair weather fans.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy for him, and I hope it goes well.
Yeah. And I hope we get a free rug out of it.
Well, we never got anything else free, so I don't think
fair.
that's going to happen.
That's
Peloton in court.
So this might be a first. We've had lots of weeks, or where back to back we've had lawsuit news. We've had lots of weeks where we've had back-to-back announcements of different lawsuits. I don't think we've ever had back-to-back weeks of announcements of lawsuits being resolved.
I agree with you. And I will say the new management up there at Peloton, I feel like there is a giant game of whack-a-mole, and there's like all these lawsuits coming out of the whack-a-mole holes. They're the moles instead of the actual moles. And somebody is up there just bam, 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 knock them out. Settle.
Yeah, like let's clear the. Let's just get
them off the
Stop
books.
having to worry about this stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Loved seeing it.
So,
Loved seeing this.
Peloton and Echelon have announced a settlement of all pending litigation.
Happy to see it. Echelon has agreed that it will cease using Peloton's patented leaderboard technology in on-demand classes. That's right. They're going to stop copying this one aspect of Peloton. Good job.
Yeah.
One thing
One
they
down.
stopped. Woo!
45 to go.
Yeah. But hey, it happened.
But for fans of Echelon, fear not, they do retain the right to continue sucking. So, phew.
So for all of you that were worried we were going to stop bagging on Echelon.
No.
Not today.
No, that's not going to happen. So that is proprietary, and they own that outright.
They do.
So it is theirs to keep.
We are happy to see that they are settled, and it says neither company will be making any further comment. So they left it to us.
Yeah. You're welcome, Barry.
Getting the psychological edge with Dr. Jenn.
Joining us once again via the magic of ZoomTube, it's Dr. Jenn Mann, licensed marriage, family, and child therapist and sports psychology consultant. She was a 5-year national team member in rhythmic gymnastics and sports psychology for USA Gymnastics. It's Dr. Jenn. Hello.
Hi. All right, we've got a fun one from Alex Markowski. So it's a little bit long of a question, but you'll understand whenever I get through it. She's been riding her bike for 5 years, and she was very proud of her fitness level. But then her husband started riding about 6 months ago and has already surpassed her based on FTP. Now, and you know what FTP is? That's the power that they use to calculate their power zones. So that's where that's specifically coming from. Now, she understands this may seem ridiculous, but how does she get past her jealousy/resentment? She is a competitive person, and it's killing her that in a few months he has passed her in what took 5 years. And she understands he's a man, but it's not fair, in all caps. Any tips on taming this jealousy would be welcome.
This would so be you if I ever rode the bike.
Stay off the damn bike. I'll give you permission. I'm kidding.
And look, I think, first of all, we have to kind of start with the premise of that's not fair. Unfortunately, life is not fair.
Amen.
And different people have different strengths and different weaknesses. And there are some people who just have naturally great endurance. I personally have had to work very hard for mine, but there are other people who it's really easy for them, or their strength, they can just pick up unbelievable amounts of weight and it's just easy for them. So I think, first of all,
people like Dr. Jenn that run really fast and make it look effortless.
It's very sweet. You're very, very sweet. But yet at the same time, despite that, when I get on the bike, I'm always in the bottom 1/3 of the class, always. So I think that we have to be careful, and we have to look at where being competitive helps us and where it hurts us. I am a very competitive person. I was on the national team of rhythmic gymnastics for 5 years, performed in the '84 Olympics. Like, I was trained by a hardcore Russian gymnastics coach to be a killer. Yet, when it comes to Peloton, I'm not at all competitive. I watch people pass me on the leaderboard. I high five them. You go, girl. Because for me, it would take away from the fun of the experience. Like, to me, it wouldn't be fun if I felt like I had to beat other people. And I think that she needs to really look at what are the dynamics with her and her husband. What would she like the vibe to be in the relationship? Because look, like, Eric lifts unbelievable amounts of weight. Like, I would never even think of competing with him in that area, and I love it. I'm really proud of him, and I think it's amazing. He's like one of the strongest humans on the planet that I've ever met, and that's great. And I feel pride in his strength, and I think that she may need to switch it out and kind of be like, okay, what's going on that this is preventing me from feeling happy for him? Like, how great that he's accomplishing this. And maybe she can start to be happy for him and really start to look at, areas in her life where she gets to kind of be on the podium, where she gets to kind of have something that is naturally, that maybe she's a better artist than him, maybe she's a better writer, maybe she's better at running or stretching or something else, and to kind of make peace with all of that. And I think that, again, we have to really look at where being competitive serves us and where it doesn't. And this isn't serving her. This is causing her pain. And she's accomplished so much over 5 years that she needs to remain proud of.
I definitely agree. Although I will say there are times that it's like it's hard to take stock of things that you do well and to be able to see that in a prideful way, because, and we've talked about it on the show before, that sometimes when it's your accomplishment, it just is like, well, of course, because anybody can do it if I can do it. And so you can even like brush off the things you do better than other people, but yet this one thing is stuck in your head that they're doing better.
And I think, like we've talked about before, anytime you find yourself doing that, it's time to self-reflect and to really look at what was it in my childhood that made me feel like what I was doing wasn't special, that I didn't deserve that kind of recognition, that I somehow should be overlooked. And I think that that's really where a lot of the work is, that we get trained at a very early age in a lot of households not to pat ourselves on the back. And I think it's important we learn to pat ourselves on the back. I think that when we can do that, we become less focused on other people's accomplishments and needing their approval, because we can provide it for ourselves.
I feel like that's a very Midwestern thing.
It is.
Of, like, don't pat yourself on the back. Like, it's, because it's like we grew up in very different households, but we both still have that same mentality of, and I have to remind her all the time of the things that she does well.
And you probably can see it really clearly with her, but not so much with yourself. You're like, what do you mean you're not patting? It's like, that's amazing what you just did.
Yeah, and certain things he's good at patting himself on the back, but like when it comes to like Tonal, for example, I mean, his strength score is stupid high, and he's always just like, whatever, I don't know.
But I do think, look, there's a really interesting study that came out, and I talk about it in my book, that found that couples who celebrate each other's successes actually have better numbers when it comes to the longevity of the relationship. And, I never really thought about it in terms of like Peloton, but maybe she can shake it up and kind of instead celebrate it. Like, instead, like, hey, oh my God, you beat your PR. Let's have a special dinner. Or maybe he can acknowledge her and help her to appreciate how far she's come. And when she breaks her PR, and that doesn't have to be they're competing against each other, but as they compete against themselves and they improve, they can both celebrate each other.
Yeah. And she doesn't really say how he's responding to his, if hopefully
if he's spiking the football, that's going to be a problem.
And hopefully he's just doing his thing, and she just happens to be noticing it. That's my assumption, because that would be Tom and I. He would just not say anything. He would be like, if
it's not the case, and let's just say he is making a big deal of it or being competitive with her, I think having a conversation to say, this is something that's really important to me. Like, I've worked for 5 years to build this up, and I'm feeling really demoralized and discouraged when you're making such a big deal of how much further along you are than me. I really need your support. And asking for what we need in our relationships is just such an important skill.
It is. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, also, if she's a competitive person and he's a competitive person, that might be at sometimes a productive component of the relationship or a fun aspect of the relationship. And so I would suggest maybe finding a metric that is more balanced. If you still want to have some sort of way to compete, but that is more fair.
Well, and somebody,
is there a different metric you can use, like number of rides or number of minutes, or
Well, somebody went on to say in this thread, because this kind of went back and forth, that really she's still beating him because she's a smaller person and has lost weight, and that when you look at FTP divided by weight, she's more powerful than he is whenever you normalize it, and weight is how you normalize it, and that is accurate. So really, if you wanted to have like the most apples to apples thing that you could be using, that would actually be a better one, is the FTP by weight, because that takes your kilograms and says, okay, this person weighs 100 pounds and has this output. This person weighs 200 pounds and has this output. And they look like this, but whenever you even take the weight into it, now it's closer to this, or in this case, it's like this. Does that make sense?
It does, but I still think it's like focusing on the wrong thing, because like being competitive with someone in your family. I mean, like, you know, like whether it's like a sibling or a spouse or a parent, like, I don't think it serves people unless you're Venus and Serena. Like, you know, like
I'm pretty sure they're not married though.
Yeah, but enjoy your ride. Like, do what it takes to enjoy your ride. And sometimes you got to put on blinders and just not pay attention to what other people are doing, even people who you love, and find other ways to support each other.
I think that's true.
It's funny. I love watching the way the two of you approach the problem, right? Is because one's a licensed therapist, right? One's a project manager, and Crystal solves the topic, and Dr. Jenn addresses the issue
and the emotions.
Right? Yeah, like
heart.
I just found that fascinating.
That balance really serves our friendship.
It does.
Yes,
it does.
It serves our marriage.
It does. I love that.
Well, thank you so much for that. Until next time, where can people find you?
You can find me not being competitive on social media at Dr. Jenn Man, 2 N's on Jen, 2 N's on Man. Or you can find me in Style Magazine. I have a weekly column called Hump Day with Dr. Jenn.
Thank you.
Instructors in the news.
So Becs Gentry is on episode 4 of In All Hours.
Yeah, and basically it is a partnership with Oura Ring, and she talks about how Oura Ring tracked the differences that have started occurring in her body before she even knew that she was pregnant, or at the very beginning of her pregnancy. And that since she talks about this openly, about how she had a miscarriage before, and so she didn't really trust her body, and that the Oura Ring kind of showed those changes starting to happen and allowed her to have a little more trust within her body.
Oh, that's interesting.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
I thought so too.
It's always interesting the way technology is getting to the point that it can know things before you do. I
agree. I've never used the Oura Ring, but I know it does a lot of similar things to what the Whoop does. And that really is crazy how accurate it is. I mean,
yeah. I
can always tell when my PMS symptoms are starting to happen, because it's like, oh, I feel fine, but all of my stats just went to shit.
I can normally tell you when they're starting.
Mm-hmm. That's enough out of you.
It's close. So have I ever told you a story about Target and their Target marketing?
I don't think so.
This happened about 15, maybe 20 years ago.
Okay.
But so a dad storms into a Target, outraged, I tell you.
You did tell me
this. And he's like, how dare you send this to my 15-year-old daughter? And it was a thing about hey, we sell all this stuff for pregnant women, and we have prenatal vitamins, and we have this, and we have that, and we have that. And the manager's like, I'm a manager of a Target. I don't control that. It's just
go to the home office.
Yeah. But, and so the guy's like the manager's trying to backpedal as best as he can. And it's and apparently Target had set up this thing where I guess you had the Target card, and when you bought certain things in combination, it triggered it to know or think or assume that you are probably pregnant.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it sent something to this teenager, and so they apologized profusely, and then 6 weeks later the dad comes back in, he's like, yeah, so about that,
she was pregnant.
Whoops. And apparently Target knew
now
before.
That's a whoopsie doodle.
Target knew before she did. Because of the things she was buying.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Like, it wasn't like she bought a pregnancy test and they sent it to her.
Yeah.
It was like, because that's
She was having
pretty
cravings.
easy.
She had like donuts.
Yeah, well, I guess. I don't know. They never really said like what she was buying, but there were certain things if you bought them kind of at the same time or in close proximity.
They were like saltines and
right, yeah, pickles and yeah. So
that's crazy.
I just thought that was fascinating.
It is. It is.
The next episode of LOL Cody will feature Rae Jepson.
Yes, and there will also be a guest instructor of Kendall. Kendall will be there as well.
How about that?
Yeah.
And he gets a nice big write-up about that in Pop Sugar.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to be covering this for all of the episodes. So if you want to see like what's going to happen on the next episode, if you just kind of watch each week, you'll be able to get the full rundown before it happens. It's pretty cool.
So the UK is getting a new tread instructor.
Yeah, this got posted on Jocelyn Thompson Rules Instagram, Hannah Frankson, and they like blurred out one of the instructors, and it's like, oh, it's the Team Tread UK chat, and it goes from 4 to 5. Who's it going to be? Well, I think it's going to be Hannah Frankson, but that's just me.
Oh, okay. There's your putting your money on the table, making your bets.
I am. Just feels right.
Robin Arzon had a Twitter talk.
She was on Twitter Spaces
Twitter
today.
Spaces, whatever that's called, talking about Web3.
It's their clubhouse.
Okay, trying to explain it to people.
Yeah, well,
how'd that go? You listened.
She was actually trying to explain what this Swaggered Solutions or whatever it's called is going to do.
Okay.
And they were talking about Web3 in general and like, why is she doing her, what is this thing called? Swagger something? I don't know. Swagger Society.
Swagger Society. I was taking a drink. I actually knew the answer to that one.
Well, you were taking too long.
I'm sorry. Got to stay hydrated.
Hydrate another time.
I got to stay hydrated with my Coke
time.
Zero.
So she talked a little bit about, well, this went on for quite a while, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the questions was like, what exactly is Swagger Society going to do? What exactly is it for? And it was hard to tell because a lot of this conversation was just buzzword after buzzword after buzzword. But if you read between the lines, this is what I kind of got from it, that she is looking to have conversations that are more one-on-one. She says that it's unprecedented access to her. I don't think I actually believe that, but I am willing to see.
Could be.
I know.
There's no sort of technology that's going to make it possible for her to talk to 1,000 people.
So what she was saying
directly one-on-one.
So what she was saying was that Web 1, Web 2, those are all like one-way conversations.
Right.
And by that, she specifically said people go on and they make a comment.
Yeah.
I disagree with that because you comment back and forth. Like you can reply to that. But apparently that's not good enough. So on Web 3, it's supposedly more dynamic where you can have a conversation. I'm not seeing it. I don't get it.
I just don't know how a person like this could have the bandwidth to do that. I don't mean I mean metaphorically.
Oh, I know.
In her head.
Like
I just thought
enough room.
it was confusing because we're talking about something that actually also uses bandwidth. But
yeah.
But like she doesn't have the time or energy. I'm not saying she's not energetic,
and
obviously.
She was talking about how like there will be like personalized drops into people's lockers because apparently there's some kind of locker or something that is going to be there, and this is still being built out. So these things could all change. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. And I want to be clear, I'm not even skeptical of Robin. I'm skeptical of Web 3.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand why people say it's more dynamic than 1 or 2. Like, I don't understand how it's different.
I keep hearing the pitch, but I don't hear an actual explanation.
And part of what they're saying is that, like, Web 1 was just a flat web page.
It's just a web page. Go to Coke.com and you can read a flyer about Coke.
And Web 2, it's the social media aspect.
Right.
But Web 3 they're saying Web 1 and 2 were more disparate and that it can be more like all cohesive in Web 3. And I guess without seeing it in action, I'm just not seeing that. Because like I've looked around at some of the Discord stuff that's out there for some of these organizations. I'm just not a Discord fan, so that's on me. But I think you gotta be to be able to get into this.
Yeah. Is Discord Web 3?
Well, no, but it's one of the places that you can interact about
Right.
Web3.
But it's just like a giant
That's what
chat room,
I
right?
know. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. To me, this takes us back 20 years,
Right.
not forward.
It's like, congratulations, you've invented instant messenger.
But it's more than that because you're talking to so many people at the same time. It's almost like Reddit and a chat room. It's really
but you had
weird.
message boards, and it's like when people started going crazy for narrative podcasts, and I'm like, congratulations, you've invented old time radio.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still I had hoped I would get more clarity about what it actually is that she's doing, and I didn't. At the end of the day, she's saying that it's going to deepen relationships and that she's not looking for this to get her a bunch of followers. What she's looking to do is to have more deepened conversations with a more select group. And I don't think that's actually going to be what happens, and I don't know. But I will say this, she also went on to say the reason that this is so important to her is because as she was listening to all of these like boys club types have all these conversations, she was like, there are no women in these spaces. There are no people of color in these spaces
Not
having
many,
these
for sure.
conversations.
Yeah.
And so she wanted to get in on it. That's why this is important to her.
Right.
Is because she doesn't want a whole nother generation.
medium. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Generation of medium to occur without people that she feels like she represents and without her specifically.
Yeah.
So, I think those are good things to say. And I mean, I said as much to you, like, I want to understand this because I don't want to be left behind. The world is changing, whether I like it or not, whether
Right.
I'm on board with Web3 or not, it's happening. So I want to know more about it.
Yeah, just know. I'm yet to see someone show it to me where it's like, and this is what it does.
Yeah.
It's,
And I think part of it is because so many people are like, it's got to have something to do with blockchain. And that's certainly part of it, but that's not the only piece of it. And so I think that there's a lot of people who are in this space that all they focus on is the cryptocurrency and blockchain and NFTs and that kind of thing. And there is a whole conversation happening outside of that.
Yeah.
And I think people need more education about that side of it. But we will continue to update you as I learn more. I am very invested in finding out exactly what this is. And when I find out without buzzwords, I will tell you.
So Eric Yeager took over Tobias Heinz's Instagram.
Yes.
To give some updates on the Manaslu Trail.
He did.
Expedition, whatever it's called.
This is stage 1. Look at that mountain. Like, that's insane.
Oh, I thought that was a graph of some kind.
Yeah.
It's a mountain?
That's a graph of the ascent.
So it's the elevation.
It's the elevation.
Yeah, like
yes.
his tracking him has recreated the profile of that mountain.
But the important thing is this is only stage 1.
Yeah.
Like, this is like, that's the incredible part. And like, I can't quite see the numbers on here. I should have memorized them, but like the longest ascent. Okay. So in total, just on stage 1, we're talking 2,000 meters. Okay. The descent is 1,600 meters. And so the longest ascent is going to be 1,300 meters, and the longest descent is 1,480 meters. His checkpoint time is going to be 16 kilometers. And the fastest time this has ever occurred for men is 2 hours, 59 minutes and 20 seconds. The slowest time was 8 hours and 50 seconds.
Well, I think the slowest time would be 0.
Well, I'm just telling you what
I
it
currently
says.
hold the slowest time.
Well, you didn't do it.
Right.
So
Precisely.
we are rooting for Tobias, and
Yes.
I am so excited to be watching this journey. So I will continue to give more updates as they occur. I guess next week it should, in theory, be done.
Yeah.
So I hope he's hanging in there. This is scary.
It's a lot, man.
It is.
Joining us once again via the magic of ZoomTube. Every week we collect your fitness and nutrition questions, and then we throw them at Angelo, and whatever he can't duck, he answers. So
About the size of it.
So hi.
Hi.
Hey guys.
I'm into him.
Well, I was saying hi too.
you were
Is that
saying hi to him.
okay?
Okay, now I'm up to speed.
Okay.
They were both saying hi to me. I feel privileged today.
Well, one of our listeners, Jenna Lund Murphy, she would like to know some tips about how to increase protein without increasing cholesterol.
Oh, great question. Actually, I've been just talking about this with another client. So Jenna, what you want to do is you want to get plant-based proteins, and there's a whole bunch of them out there. Unfortunately, when people ask me this, they're typically wanting, what brand, what product? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you categories instead of a specific brand or product, because if I give you a brand or product, by the time you hear this podcast, they may have changed their formulation. It may not even be on the market anymore. And these companies are constantly changing up what they're making. So think about the principles of what you're looking for. You want to increase your protein. So there are lots of protein sources that are non-animal sources. So what you can do is you can get protein from, of course, legumes, nuts, seeds, etc. Those most people know about, and that's a great way. Protein powder is such an easy way to supplement. And a little bit will go a long way. With a lot of my more plant-based dieters, sometimes I'll just have them do just a half a serving of a vegetarian or vegan protein powder in just a little water as a supplement once, twice a day to bring that protein up, or even with a specific meal where it may be a little bit low. Another option that you have is there's so many high protein veggie burgers out there now. There's a plethora of options. What you're looking for is a combination of high protein and modest carbohydrate, because most of them will have some carbohydrates in it, and that is okay. What you don't want to be is upside down, where it's just basically a carb burger. Because a lot of times, the qualifications and labeling for it to say high in protein is pretty modest. They can say high in protein and it still be mostly carbs.
It's also hard to swallow when you're upside down.
What they can say is it's high in protein or protein added. What you're really looking for is twice the protein as the carb. That's a rule of thumb, and you're going to be able to find lots of different brands have that. So in other words, if it has 20 grams of protein and 10 grams of carbs or thereabout, you're golden.
Got a green light.
Green light, that's golden. That's going to be a high protein, great vegetarian burger that you can use to supplement. And then there are now squeezing in between the lines here when people are asking about cholesterol and things like that. There's some animal protein that is often recommended and on a lot of people's diets, even when they're trying to reduce saturated fat or cholesterol. Of course, take that up with your doctor and your protocol. But for example, good fish, high in omega-3s, etc., like salmon, that can be a great way. Now, maybe that's not what you're looking for. You want a vegetarian option, that's a little different. But for people wanting something with good fats, you can get some fish. Other things you can do is for people who are incorporating a little bit of dietary dairy, such as egg whites without the yolk. We're skipping the fat. We're just getting the protein, such as low-fat cottage cheese, low-fat string cheese. You're still in the boat of getting some cholesterol, but there's ways of doing it to reduce and decrease saturated fats, which are in some cases looked at as more of the villain. So balance there is key. In fact, I was just having this conversation with one of my clients because he said his doctor is kicking him in high gear and he thinks he's ready to do some of the stuff I've been encouraging him. He's been inching towards. I got to give him some credit. Well, now we're gonna more than inch. We're gonna sprint. And so where we landed is he's going to do a plant-based day, but allow himself some animal protein at night. And for him, it's going to be a reduction of animal protein by 70%.
Wow.
But it's not an increase of pain by 70% to do it. You see? So find that balance for you. That's what I typically tell my clients, because in this area, in this realm, what I'm interested in is people say, well, isn't it just going straight vegan best? I'm not interested in what's best. I'm interested in what you'll do. I'm interested in what you'll follow through with. And if you have that lifestyle, awesome. But if that is not your history and there's nothing in your history that would suggest you're going to make that transition,
I feel like this is directed at me.
I think you're projecting your own guilt is what it is.
He's like, I would not recommend this to anyone else, but I know it's as close as we're going to get for you.
But it's true. A lot of people will get hung up on what's best, and I have to bring them into what's balanced and what's sustainable, because ultimately that will be best. But yeah, there's lots of great options out there, but I would look to offset. Oh, and there's also things like tofu. Now I know that brings up the question, is that going to throw off estrogen level? You'd have to have quite a bit of it for that to be an issue. So you put it in the rotation with your black bean burgers, with your protein burgers, with your legumes, with your nuts, with your seeds, and with your protein powder, you're probably going to be just fine. It's when you start living off of one ingredient or another that we run into issues. But hopefully that'll give you some, was it Jenna, I think her name was? I hope that'll give Jenna a few ideas.
I think it will.
Yeah,
There was a lot of good ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And if people would like stuff like this tailor-made for them and their fitness journey, where can they find you?
Absolutely. metpro.co/TCO. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Peloton Celebrity Sightings.
So the New York Times wrote about Ashton Kutcher and his marathon journey, why Ashton Kutcher is running his first and maybe last marathon.
Okay, can I just say I am so impressed with this man. He has raised more than $1 million for Thorne by doing this. No, just by doing this.
Right. Yeah,
like, that's
just one thing.
incredible.
Yeah.
And this was all his idea. I mean, according to this article,
right,
he reached out to Peloton and said, hey, I would like to do this with you. And all I want in return is for you to put the link at the end of each class. I don't want you to pay me a penny.
Yeah.
That's
a good deal for Peloton.
Not only is it a good deal, but I mean, I've been a fan of Ashton Kutcher, but like learning about what he has done for Thorne, like I really have learned a lot about the not-for-profit, watching his classes, and I've really enjoyed it. And he also does a great job at hosting Q&A. Let me tell you, people think that all we do is get on here and talk, and it's that simple, and it's not. There's a lot of thought that goes into it, and this man...
You think about it.
This man has thought a lot about it, and he put a lot of thought into those questions, and he kept the conversation going. That is not as easy to do as it looks.
Absolutely. And I think anyone who ever attempts it realizes very quickly.
No, there's a lot of people who are self-involved and don't know that, actually.
Touche.
Yeah. But the good ones do.
Yes.
So my hat's off to him. He really did an amazing job. And he not only finished the marathon, he finished it in under 4 hours, which is incredible. That's a really great time. And he had talked to Dr. Agus about why he might only ever do one. And Dr. Agus talked about, whenever Dr. Agus was on, he talked about how marathons are actually one of the things that are more dangerous that you could do in life. And I think we even talked about this on another episode. Where it's dangerous because the more you run, the larger your heart is trying to get to kind of like compensate for all of this activity you're doing. And it's fine to run a marathon, but like doing a whole bunch of marathons is not necessarily great for everybody because your heart, that's not what it's meant to do, according to Dr. Agus. Like it's fine to do 1 or 2 a year, but like doing a whole bunch in 1 year is not necessarily a good idea. So I don't know if that's what he was referring to, but I'm curious to see if he ends up doing another one. Either way, my hat's off to him. I thought it was really cool.
Checking out the competition.
So the Hydro team is doing some smack talking about Peloton Row.
Yeah, what'd you think of that?
It just seemed, I don't know, like a little petty.
Yeah,
I guess it seemed like they're concerned.
I mean, they are.
Yeah,
like they'd be kind of dumb to not be. To be honest, but Yeah, I really do get it. I do. It's kind of frustrating when like you came out with this thing and you did all your, you did all the research and you put it all forward, and then somebody else comes along.
And it does sound like, from what little bit we heard, if you're an actual rower, if you get in the boat and there's water next to you, that Hydro replicates that more accurately than Peloton does. But for the average person that wants a rowing machine, it sounds like the Peloton Row is better and probably more cost effective if you already have Peloton equipment.
I would agree with that. And also the Hydro, from what I understand, is not quiet like the Peloton. I'm not saying that it's like a super, super loud thing, like for example, Peloton Tread. But the Peloton Row, when we tried it, was like silent.
It's whisper quiet.
There's no sound.
And I think it's funny when everybody's like, oh my God, it's so quiet. I'm like, why do you give a shit? You're just going to get on and play Lizzo at 11. So who cares how loud it is? You're going to drown it out.
Well, and I guess some people work out when their spouses or loved ones are asleep or whatever.
Use earphones So
I can understand wanting that, but I don't know. Well, I also think that Hydro is probably a little sad that, they've been talked about as the Peloton of rowing.
And now Peloton is the Peloton of rowing.
Yeah.
Like you can't really... my guess is they've probably used that in one-on-one conversations with people. Like that's their elevator pitch. And now
they can't use it anymore.
Yeah. They all of a sudden, there's a high degree of probability that they're going to become perceived as a knockoff when they're not.
That's true. And they definitely did come out with it first.
Yeah.
I will say that, Peloton had been working on that rower for a very long time. I still think that we knew about Peloton's rower before Hydro came out. So I don't know who did what first. I really don't. But I will say they've known for a long time.
Yeah.
Hydro has known for a long time Peloton was coming. So
how long until these lawsuits start?
That's a great question. Like, who did what for patents when is obviously what that's going to come down to.
Yeah.
So I really hope everybody has their shit together on this one. Let's not do it again, folks. But they will.
They will. Also, the New York Times has an article for fitness buffs and landlords. Gyms are hot again.
Yeah, and talk about some smack talking about how nobody needs a Peloton anymore. I mean, there are people that love to go be in person at gyms. That's always going to be a thing.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I've done some other podcasts this year where I talk to people who, for the most part, have never used a Peloton. Like they're either personal trainers or they just they're just really fit and they've used gyms or whatever. And it's so interesting because every time I talk to them, these people are always like, "But I really like to go to the gym," and I always say to them, "That's great." People like me, I was super intimidated by the gym, so Peloton was freeing for me. And I think that there is place in the world for both.
For sure. I think there are people who love the gym who cannot understand why people don't love the gym.
Yeah, and I hate the gym. I hate the gym. Like, Peloton is the only place I've ever felt at home. And the only reason I feel at home there is because the community makes me feel at home.
Yeah.
I would never go, like, if I didn't use Peloton and I walked by the Peloton studio, I would never go in there.
Here's what gyms
million
are.
Years.
Here's what gyms are. This is the analogy that I think will sum up gyms for people.
Okay.
They're a stick shift.
No, but I like stick shifts. So
right.
no.
Some people love stick shifts. And they think if you're not using a stick shift, you're not really driving the car. It's just a go-kart.
Yeah,
and
that's
some
true.
people will only ever use stick shift. Everything else is for the weak and you're dumb.
Yeah.
And then there are some people who enjoy a stick shift on the weekends, but in day-to-day traffic, they like their automatic.
Yeah.
And then there's the bulk of the world, which is like, I don't need another part-time job. Just give me an automatic car. Like I've never learned to drive a stick, and that's fine, right? And
because if we ever need one, I can drive this.
Yeah,
I know
that's what I got you for.
I got it.
But it's hard to find a stick shift car anymore.
It is.
But I feel like gyms are becoming like stick shifts for people. Like
they're not as hard to find as a stick shift, but
No.
the rest of your. I know somebody's going to mention it, not because you're wrong.
Okay, but we're we're 5 years into connected fitness.
Right.
We're not
20
55 years
yeah,
into connected
for sure.
fitness, you know? And so I think over time, look, there are always going to be people who love the gym and they will exist, but you're not going to have near as many and one on every corner, which is going to make it more likely that people pivot to home stuff, because as there's fewer and fewer options, your drive to a gym is going to get longer and longer, and it's going to get less and less appealing. And the same way that people kind of pivoted to automatics because they were less necessary. More cars were automatic. You had less need to learn to drive a stick, and it just kind of withered. And
It's really funny because it's like all of technology, really. Like,
Yeah.
There are weeks I don't leave the house unless I go for a run. I mean, because we don't go to the grocery store. We don't go shopping at a real store. Like, we order everything online.
Yeah.
And I work at home. So I would not leave the house to go to a gym.
yeah.
I would hate that.
Yeah.
That would be awful. I love being able to work out at home on my schedule. It's amazing.
In case you missed it.
Jenn Sherman had a class last week that seems very popular with people just based on the comments I see, and I don't pay attention.
Yeah. She did a sold out show that was all Billy Joel live at Yankee Stadium. And it happened on Saturday, November 5th at noon Eastern. And people just raved about it. I mean, it's Jenn Sherman. Of course they're going to rave about it.
And it's
She
Billy Joel.
loves Billy Joel.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love Billy Joel?
Lots of people.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. But
Say that about any artist.
yeah, but yeah, I think this is to commemorate his Yankee Stadium show that he did in 1990.
Yes, it is. It
And-
was June 22nd and 23rd of 1990.
Yeah, and I believe they just reissued it on Blu-ray and CD. So
I thought that was really interesting because when I first saw this pop up, I was like, that's so random. And you were
Yeah.
like, nope, they're doing this whole thing with the re-release. And I just thought it was interesting. Like, why doesn't the marketing department like say that? Like, it says live at Yankee Stadium, but why doesn't it say, hey, we're re-releasing this?
Yeah, I don't
and
know. Like, I
push that.
I assume it's because of that. So, because I know he's got that
gotta
big
be.
release coming out. So, but I don't know why it wouldn't.
I just thought it was weird that it wasn't pushed.
Yeah, agreed.
But I'm glad she got to do it. I know how much she loves Billy Joel, and I'm sure being able to do a class that was all Billy Joel.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Checking in with the Peloton community.
Joining us today via the magic of ZoomTube is Krissy Blackwood. Hey, Krissy, how's it going?
Hey, how are you?
Hi. So we were just talking before we started recording, but man, 2018 was the last time. I mean, I think it was July of 2018. So it has been a while since you've been here.
It's been a minute. It has been a minute. So much has changed. So much has stayed the same. But yeah, the world feels like a totally different place now.
That's because we had an entire pandemic
Yes.
between conversations.
That whole thing.
Yeah.
I still can't believe it. I still can't believe that. But it's,
I know.
hopefully it's all mostly behind us.
It's crazy. It's like I keep thinking that it's like there are times that I literally will call it 2020 still because my brain is like stuck, like with the day we got stuck,
Because you feel like you got cheated out of that year and a half to 2 years.
Yeah.
So you're like, none of that counts. It gets to be 2020 now.
That's
I
right.
should still be 42.
Yes.
It should be 2020.
Totally. We should get these years back.
We should.
Yes. I demand to see a manager.
Gonna have to get my hair cut for my proper.
Yes.
Love it.
So we kind of have to start back. There's probably a lot of people who are listening that have never heard your story because I know it's shocking, but not everybody goes back to the beginning of 300, almost 300 episodes now and listens from day one. So there's people that might have missed your story, Krissy, and you have always been an inspiration to me personally. Like if it had not been for you and all of the crew who ended up doing Atlantic City and your Ironman journey, I don't think that I ever would have started running the way that I did. And I mean, I still consider myself very much a slow runner, but none of that would have happened had it not been for you, Tracy Paulson, Chris Gallant, Fred. I mean, all of you guys. I know I'm leaving people out and I don't mean to, but just like it was a whole group. It was a whole thing.
It was wild, right? It was like a whole a thing that just like happened, and then everyone was like joining forces and doing it together and cheering each other on. It's been quite a journey, and I'm thrilled to have been a part of your journey, Crystal. It's fun watching you run.
So tell us again when you officially like started running.
I started running in 2016. And so this all started at the end of 2015 when I bought my Peloton bike, because we all share that common love. And I started, at that point, my youngest child was, I think, 2.5 years old. So it was finally when I could start actually exercising and having a little bit of time for myself.
Yeah.
So the whole bike thing started, and I was a very loyal 6 a.m. live rider with the rest of my 6 a.m. people.
Remember the 6 a.m.s? Do you still take classes at 6 a.m.?
I do. But I wish they were live, and I wish it was like our old crew, like the old times. But times have changed. But we still talk almost daily. It's still a good group. And so I started riding religiously at 6 a.m. And so I was seeing my fitness improve. I was feeling better about myself. I was feeling stronger and more confident. And then my mother was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. And she lived in upstate New York, right outside of Albany. And I was her power of attorney and her healthcare proxy and really her person. And she was also legally deaf. So she needed people to do the phones and everything else. So I was traveling there almost every week. And sometimes it would only be just for a day or a few days. But there was no Peloton bike there. But there was a beautiful trail right behind her house. So that's where I started streaming the 6 a.m. from my headphones, and I ran. And so after the ride, because at the time with the app, you couldn't text and listen to it at the same time. So after the thing was over, there would be this like string of, IMs from our 6 a.m. group, just about like talking about the ride, but for me was a run.
So
and
basically, you invented the Peloton tread.
I did.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for the royalties, by the way. I haven't.
You should
received
file
any.
a patent suit. You know how, like, when people were suing podcasts because somebody was like, I mailed a cassette tape in 1975. That's a podcast. I have the patent.
That's right. It was all me.
Yes.
But the instructors started hearing about, because back then Peloton was so much smaller. So the instructors would start hearing that I was doing this running thing at the same time. So like I started getting shout outs when I wasn't even on the bike. I was running. And like Jenn Sherman would be like, Krissy, that means you need to run faster. Everyone else like crank up your resistance. So it got a little crazy, but that's how it started.
So how do you increase your resistance? You like pick up a branch or
That's why
something?
she's got to go fast.
She's got to pick up a branch
faster.
so she has more resistance.
I gotta haul it.
Yeah. See, fast would be your cadence, right?
Well,
That's right.
she had to do what she had. She
So
had
I'm saying,
to
pick up something heavy.
Oh, you just wanted to like just pick up a rock.
Right, just grab a branch laying in the woods or a small woodland creature.
Well, the funny part though is this was, Jennifer Jacobs was still there, and I still have arm envy for Jennifer Jacobs. Remember, she would do the arms on the bike with the shadow boxing. So like I would do that running, like she could see me. I look like an idiot. I'm like running like shadow boxing at the same time.
So you also invented Peloton boxing.
Oh my God!
I did. I did.
It all comes back to Krissy.
I think an attorney will be contacting you after this airs.
I'm telling you, it's all right here.
Yeah.
I wish they would hire me.
Have you done any rowing? Should we know about that?
I'm sure she
Invented
has.
that too.
Yeah. Okay,
yeah, so that's how the whole running thing got started, and it became, because my mother was sick. It was also like it was not only a way for me to get exercise, and not only a way for me to connect with my 6 a.m. We created a bit of a family. Like it was just, and they were my support system and whatnot. And it just turned into like my therapy, my everything. I just fell in love with it. And then I randomly got selected. I entered the lottery for the New York City Marathon and got picked.
Oh my gosh.
Doesn't happen. And then, my dear friend Malia Herman, God love her, Malia from Hawaii. She was the one who planted the seed about the World Marathon Majors. She was there at the New York City finish line. And this was back in 2017, where I didn't think I'm running behind a trail behind my mother's house. I am not New York City Marathon material. I grew up in like a tiny town. Like this is like, I'm way out of my league, but I caught the itch, it was such a wonderful, it's really hard to describe how incredible that feeling is of doing the marathon and the crowds. And, our dear friend Howie Gottnick, we talked about, his running of the New York City Marathon, and you feel like you're in the Super Bowl. And Carrie's such a rock star with all of her marathons. So anyway, it kind of is contagious. You kind of catch this, you get the itch, and then you ride the wave of everybody else who's doing it, and they're fueling you and you're fueling them. And it just sort of took on a life of its own. So this World Marathon Major thing sort of became a thing, but it was sort of in the background. So at the same time, because I love my bike, and I love to run, and Candace Ryan was like, we should do the Atlantic City half Ironman. Wasn't that a great idea? And it was a terrible idea, but we did it anyway.
Yeah, you did.
We did it anyway. And all this took on a life all of its own, with, Carol coming to cheer us on, and you guys doing the relay, and Tracy and Chris, the Stooges. I mean, it just became a thing. And it's been such a piece of my life that I will never forget and I will cherish always.
Yeah. And how long did you give yourself before you trained for the Ironman? Because you guys, you did the half Ironman, but you also did a full Ironman by yourself. There was no relay like I did. Like, you did the whole thing.
That was stupid too.
But you did it.
I'm kidding. Yeah, I'm kidding. No, we did it. It was another one of those, like, Tracy, Chris, and I always joke. We say, like, that's a terrible idea. What time? What time should we be there? If it's a bad idea, we can pretty much count on us to sign up for it. And Chris got into his head that he wanted to do Lake Placid, and I'm born and raised in upstate New York. I'm like, why not?
Yeah.
Sounds like a terrible idea, but we should do it anyway. And that took on a life of its own just because the training, I mean, we're talking about, like, this is a full, long day of exercise, and racing. And the day certainly didn't go as planned for me. I don't think it went as planned for any of us. But it went, and it was early 3 a.m. wake ups to start to hop on bikes and run and do all the things. But it was, I don't know. It was magical.
It was, I remember watching you guys cross the finish line, and I just got goosebumps, It was just, like, so cool to watch it. And you are an Iron Man. Like, that's badass. Like, nobody can ever take that from you. That's amazing.
Totally. Those words are just, like, you can hear them, you can dream about them, but when you actually hear them from Mike Riley as you're going through the finish line, it's a whole life-changing experience.
Oh, wow. Okay, so then you decided to go and finish the rest of the world majors, and then somewhere in there, like, everything kind of got difficult. Well, I don't know. I don't even know which difficulty popped up. It's been so long at this point.
I know. Yeah. So I did the triathlon circuit for a long time, and I still love triathlon. I want to get back into that. But when COVID happened, there's, like, I'm not going to the pool.
Right.
And, so anyway, it just became, and from a stress relief standpoint, I found myself running even more because that was, that's what I do. I love to run. And I was still doing the bike tons, but there's no races on the calendar. There was not a whole lot of stuff going on. But actually right before COVID, let me back up. So I did the New York City Marathon in 2017. In 2018, before I did the Ironman, I did the Boston Marathon, and that was the year that it was the torrential downpour.
Oh my God, okay. I remember. Oh, you had, like, the worst, like, the rubbing, oh my God, you had blisters from the rain. Oh
yes.
I have no idea how you kept going. I don't.
Well, the funny thing is, I guess maybe it's not funny, but that was my fastest marathon. I mean, it was just so cold. It's like, just get me out of this. Yeah. Get me out of this thing. But I remember I crossed the finish line, and one of my dear best friends who helped me get into the charity to do the Boston Marathon, she had a friend who lived right by the finish line. So they brought me to her apartment, and I just shook for like 2 hours. Like, there was nothing to just get me warm. It was brutal, but it was wonderful because I used to live in Boston. So, like, and we used to watch it every Patriots Day. We'd go and hang out and have drinks at the bar. But so to be able to do it was just such a huge, huge honor. So I absolutely loved it. And then I was like, all right, well, if I've got 2 down, I've got 4 more to go. And I had gotten into Berlin. And so I started training for the Berlin Marathon, which was supposed to be in 2019. And at that point, this is when sort of things changed for me. And I don't know if it was getting older. I don't know if it's just sort of like, I kept getting hurt. And I'm typically a pretty resilient person, but the first injury was I was training for Berlin, and I was actually running on the beach. And I ended up, my coach had a 90-minute run on my calendar. I did the 90-minute run. And as soon as I felt a little something in my heel, but nothing to stop me. I was like, oh, that might feel a little sore tomorrow. And then I stopped running and then I couldn't walk. It was like I finished the run, but then couldn't walk. And it was a very bizarre, and I had a meeting that I was late to, so I had to like hurry up. So I didn't even have time to like even worry about it. And it turns out I broke my heel all the way through.
Oh.
And so
And you don't know how, just from running?
Nobody knows. I've had 3 different doctors look at it. They're like, Krissy, this is like if you fell off a building type of impact. This is not I got this from running. And I was like, but I finished my run. Like I didn't stop. I finished it. And then I just couldn't walk. So I do think, so in addition to my side hustle of Peloton should owe me royalties for inventing the tread, I think I would like to get paid to do a study, an endorphin study. I want someone to like test I swear to God, my endorphins must be higher than most other people that I can run through this stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't even notice until I stop.
You got all the endorphins I didn't.
You took Tom's.
You got mine.
Maybe you should hop on the bike and test it out there, Tom. I don't know. There's a little experimentation that
I rode a bike when I was a kid. It was like, it's fine. Got me from point A to point B, but
oh my gosh, I love it. Yeah, so anyway, so I broke my heel. People couldn't figure out what happened, and that took like 9+ months to heal. I mean, that was miserable.
Yeah.
Finally got that going, started training again, and then got a stress fracture in my hip. And so at this point, my physical therapist, my doctors are like, maybe go get a bone density test. Like this, you should not be breaking bones from running. Like this is not right. And I had a bone density test and it's all good. I'm just a crazy person who I think endorphins are just out like my painkiller. But it was a big lesson for me because I hate not being able to move. And so there was a lot of PTSD from both of those setbacks.
I bet.
Yeah.
Where once I started running again, like it's none of the crazy stuff that I used to do. I used to like every Tuesday was like my speed day. I called it Suicide Tuesday because I'm going to try to kill myself. I'm going to see how fast I can run. So like, and I don't do any of that
now.
anymore.
You might.
I know. I'm telling you.
Why she doesn't do it anymore.
I was just thinking, if your endorphins are that good, it's a shame you didn't know it before you had your kids. You wouldn't have needed an epidural.
Yes. No spinal for me.
Could have just went on a jog and just. There it is.
Get out. There we go.
Call your husband. Hey, you need to come by and pick up the newborn. I still have another 3 miles.
Mile 12.
Yeah.
Mile 12 pickup.
I'm not going to slow down either.
I'll swap you for a Gatorade.
Yeah. So that's kind of that. So that was a bit life-changing for me, of like a bit of reality setting in of like, I'm not getting any younger.
So
and if I want to be able to do this, I gotta.
Do you do anything different now to try and prevent that? Do you like run with bubble wrap or
slower, maybe?
The difference is because I'm such a cardio junkie, like, and part of the reason why people think that I've had these injuries is because everything that I'm doing, either swimming, biking, or running, are all in the same plane,
bilateral.
And so I wasn't doing any of the cross training. I wasn't doing the tonal. I wasn't doing anything other than spending all of my time either swimming, running, or riding the bike. And so that has changed dramatically. I do all the prehab, all the rehab. I have physical therapists that I am obsessed with. She's fantastic and has like nursed me back to health. So it's all that. It's all the cross training, which I don't love the cross training, but things like tonal make me like it better than I used to like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's been pretty much it, is just trying to be more responsible, which I feel really old saying because I like my old reckless, young, abandoned self.
But your wiser self will be around longer.
Well, and that's what got me to the 6 stars. That's what happened. I mean, it was within that. So after Boston, I then got into Tokyo, and I took my kids out of school. We flew to Tokyo and we did that, and it was amazing. Actually, then the injuries happened, and then I was like, okay, well, Oh, and then there was Chicago in there too. And then I was like, all right, well, then I just have these 2 left. But it felt like years. I mean, it was injury, then pandemic. And it was like, these are never going to happen. And I was terrified to hurt myself again.
Yeah.
So then so what typically happens is the London Marathon is in the spring and the Berlin Marathon is in the fall. And it just so happened that with COVID, they pushed the London Marathon. So it was 6 days after the Berlin Marathon. And I was like, well, go big or go home. So I went into this race fully expecting like a full hip. I still have to get hip surgery. I've got torn cartilage in there. They need it. But I was like, you know what? Let's just get through these last 2 and we'll see what happens. So I took them very slow. I considered them like my 26.2 retirement parties, where there's those people with beers. I'd chug a beer, then keep going, but it was a blast.
I think it's a 52.4 retirement party.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. That is true. But with this too, I couldn't have my kids miss out on it. So we pulled the kids out of school, and granted, the teachers were great. So we had all their assignments and stuff lined up so that they could not only keep up with school while they were there, but also experience Berlin. And then we had 4 days in Paris, and then we went to London, and it was wonderful. But I also didn't want to not be able to walk with my kids. I wanted to walk every step of the Louvre and climb up all the stairs to Arc de Triomphe and do all those things. So it was a really incredible, 10 days or whatever that we were there. It was magical.
It sounds like a trip of a lifetime. It really does. Wow.
I still can't believe it. I was working on it for 6 years. You think about that.
Yeah.
And I can't even imagine the thousands of miles and hours and even just mental energy, like dreaming about being able to complete my 6 stars and dealing with logistics and planning. I mean, it's really amazing to think. It still hasn't hit me that it's actually over and that it happened.
Do you get a special medal that puts all of your medals? Do you get a special
Voltron?
one?
I can grab it if you want to see it.
Yeah, let's see it. I want to see the bling.
Yeah. So once you cross the finish line of your last one, and there's a lot that goes into all this anyway. They track you and follow you. There's a whole process and whatnot. And then there's a special check-in during your last race. And anyway, and then when you cross the finish line, you get your first medal. So for me, my last was London. So I got my London medal. And then there's a separate tent and they're waiting for you with this guy.
Look at that.
Look at that. That's pretty cool.
So it's got each of the 6. And it was, I cried like a toddler. It was
I'm about to cry just looking at it. Holy cow. All the pain and the love and the work that went into that. Oh, I'm so proud of you. You're amazing. Oh,
thank you.
So amazing.
You. It was funny though, because then you put it around your neck and you've got both medals. So when you're walking, the 2 are clanking next to you. It sounded like I had cymbals, like a whole cheering committee.
Like a cow.
You brought your own cowbell.
Yeah. I was my own cowbell. And my kids are like, Mom, you're really loud. I'm like, I don't care. I earned it. Don't care.
It's my right.
Let me enjoy the clanking together.
I can leave you here.
I brought you overseas. Shut up.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, so it was wild, but it was what a blast. What a blast.
That's an amazing story. When you decided, okay, I'm going to do London and Berlin, did you say to your coach, I need to up my miles? Did you say, what should I do different? What did you do?
Here's what else changed in between this period of time. I got rid of my coach.
Oh, that's scary. Oh,
I did. I got to the point where I didn't trust even my own body because of these injuries.
I truly get that.
And I was feeling so much pressure to meet what he had on my plan that I cared more about turning my training peaks green than I did about paying attention to how I was actually feeling.
Oh.
And that got a little bit scary. So I ended up getting rid of my coach, and I'm considering getting him back because I miss him. He was just so wonderful. And I think I'm going to start getting back into triathlon now that I'm marathon retired. So I think I might try to get him back again now that, I did the bucket list. I did the Ironman. I got my 6 stars for the World Marathon Majors. Now, go ahead and screw up the rest of my body. Who cares now?
I'm done with it.
These old bones.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing your post and I was just like, oh my gosh, whatever. You were like, okay, that's it. I'm done. I was like, what? You can't be done. Not really.
my kids are mad. They're mad about it. They're like, because they get to like.
They get to go to all these
really cool
places. They're
Yeah.
like, don't you think you should do Kona? I think you should go for the World Championships, Mom.
Well, they don't like me doing triathlons because they're afraid I'm going to die on the swim. Because I've been in a number of triathlons where people have actually drowned, and so they're terrified. So they're like, we don't want. I was like, let's just do triathlons. We can go to all sorts of cool places. They're like, no. Unless it's like a pool swim, they don't want me swimming.
On the upside, your kids want you to live.
That's true. That's true.
Some days.
Yeah.
That particular day when I asked them, they were all about me living. But other days, they're like, no, Mom, please do triathlons and drown.
The will's in order,
And they've
though.
seen me swim.
that's-
They know how terrible I am. So there's a high probability that I could succumb to the swim at some point.
So when you approached your training, then how many miles? Like, okay, so the old style of marathon training is like you got to do all the miles and you got to do basically running every day, like almost every day for marathon training. And now new training is saying, okay, you need to back off of that. Really, you shouldn't be out there more than like 3 to 4 hours max a week, like for your long run, like when you get towards the end. So for a person like myself who's uber slow, like I would never get close to 26 miles. Like if I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop at 4 hours, that's half a marathon.
Wait a minute, you did 26.2 miles. Who are you kidding?
But I did it on my tread and I walked and it took 8 hours. It was 8 hours. But my point is that like that would be a whole Saturday if I were to do that.
Yeah.
Like that is an entire day. So like obviously you're a lot faster than I am, but how many hours? Yes, you are. Stop it.
No, I'm not.
You qualified for Boston. You still had to qualify even when
that was through charity. I am not a fast runner.
I thought you still had to qualify when you went in through a charity. You don't?
No.
Well, you're still way faster than I am, and you're way faster on the bike. I've seen your times, so I know this is
not
true.
anymore. I'm afraid. I'm afraid of breaking myself.
Well, I do get that. I do get that. And I remember one time you told me that you had had a torn part in your thigh too. And like every time I get a twinge when I'm out running, like I think of you. I'm like, oh my God, I've torn something.
You're like, this is how it starts.
I was like, I've torn something in my quadricep. I need to wrap it up and do nothing for 2 days. But I do. I'm like, if I feel it rip, if it feels like it's ripped, I just stop.
Yeah, it's true. Like you gotta pay. It's, my coach always called it the little niggles. It's like whenever you feel a little niggle, something doesn't feel right. Like you gotta you gotta make a decision of, do you think you can run through it, or do you think that's going to completely set you back? And so one of the things that I loved about his coaching is, his philosophy was, whatever session you're doing that particular day, even if it's a hard session, don't make it so hard that you can't do tomorrow's session. Like, so, and that was like a big thing for me. I'm like, okay, well, if you feel a little niggle or something doesn't feel right, like that would be the question I'd ask myself of like, if I keep pushing through, does that mean I won't be able to run my 5 miles tomorrow? And if so, then stop now. Or if, and that was kind of helped with some of my deciding factors of how to go forward. But to answer your question about marathon training, what a huge difference, the big changer for me was no longer doing mileage runs. It was all for time. And so my long runs, my longest was up to, 3 hours and 45 minutes. It was not go run 22 miles. It was go run easy for 3 hours and 45 minutes. And whatever mileage you get, like, don't worry about it. You'll be totally fine. And that was actually really helpful because it took the pace pressure off of me. So I was running smarter. I was truly staying in zone 2. And it made it much more enjoyable because I wasn't suffering the whole time. And I knew I wasn't going to break any records these last 2 marathons. It was about getting there for the experience, enjoying it. And so it was a very different mindset shift, as well as, calendar shift of how I approached the last 2 marathons versus how I approached the first 4.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a huge thing. And I think that is a big thing that the entire fitness industry has done, is they're shifting to that time-based approach instead of mileage-based approach. And I do think that it's helpful. I talk to a lot of people that I work with through MetPro, and I find that a lot of people still they're still running like 50 something miles a week. And I'm just like, ooh, we got to ease it off a little bit. Let's add the strength training. Let's get back to 30 and like hit the weights. That's what we need to do.
Right. That's right.
But I also get that like there's that mentality of like the more I run, the better I run. The more I run, the better I run. And I understand that too. Now, when you say you're going to transition back into triathlons, do you have like a distance in mind? Like, are you going to do...
Not a full. That ship has sailed.
She's like, I'm out.
If Chris or Tracy call me after this and say we're doing one, I'm not answering the phone.
You will so answer. It's not true.
They'll suck in.
I do like the half Ironman distance. I also like Olympics. That's like a meaningful chunk of time that's not going to take over and consume your life or create all sorts of potential injuries.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Right now, I'm still basking in the glory of not having anything on my calendar, which is bizarre. Because I was also doing so much physical therapy and prehab and rehab and all of that stuff that I'm like, those aren't on my calendar anymore. My long runs aren't on my calendar anymore. Like all the rigor that I've been working with for years. 6 years is no longer there. I thought I was going to get depressed. I'll be honest. Cause and I think we've all had events that we look forward to, be it weddings, races, whatever, and then they're over and you're like, oh, I'm kind of bummed. I'm not bummed yet. I'm like still
That's great.
I'm still waiting for this to like sink in. Like I seriously hasn't even sunken in yet that it's happened, but it is a little bit of liberating to have an open calendar with less pressure, and I could just do whatever I feel like doing whenever I feel like doing it, which is kind of nice.
What are you doing with your free time then?
Still all sorts of workouts, but fun stuff. I'm basically doing anything that's live. If it's
great.
live, I'm going to do it. So like before, because running was the thing that I was most focused on, that would be the first thing I did. And then if I could squeeze in a bike or something, it would be just to kind of roll the legs out or whatever. And now it's like whatever's live. Tonal now has these 8 a.m. live things, so I'm all over those. I still love my mirror. The now Lululemon Studio is what they call it. Whatever live anything is. If I can pack it in outside of my crazy job schedule, that's kind of what I do. It's because I enjoy it. It's more for fun than anything else.
It's so funny because I'm taking the Tonal 20 and 20 runners challenge, and I hear you get shout outs in there like every morning.
Christina's amazing.
Because you did them all live. So
yeah,
they're like always shouting you out. And I'm just like,
I want Christina to come back and do that. I mean, can we do that again? Because I like the live stuff. I don't know why. I don't know if it's like an immature side of me that like loves knowing that other people are there and doing the same thing that you are.
It's supportive.
But I want Christina to come back and do another 2020 for runners. That was so fun.
It's a really good workout too. Like it's sneaky hard, like in all the best ways. Like you'd think, oh, it's only 20 minutes, but like it gets you.
I know. I always think it's going to go by like that. And there's a lot of times I'm like, oh my gosh, we're just finishing the warm up. I'm already sweating and like tired. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you get to take any of the Peloton like bike classes? Do you still like live these days? I
did today. I took Christine's at 10 o'clock. That was my 2,750th ride.
Holy cow.
So I did that at 10.
Nice.
I did a mirror this morning before that. And I went out for a run. It's actually warm here for the first time in a while. So I ran for like 3 miles, slow, easy miles.
Slow, easy.
Yeah. Slow, easy. Well, especially around here because all the leaves are all on the ground and it was raining. So wet leaves and an injury-prone runner are not a good combination. So it was very, very slow and reserved, but it was beautiful.
I was running this morning outside too because I feel like I've been trying to kind of like take advantage of the weather when it works. And I was running downhill today and there were leaves everywhere and we have those acorns underneath the leaves. So I would see a big pile and then I would go around leaves. I'm like, I'd rather run in the grass next to the concrete than run on those. They terrify me. I'm going to roll an ankle.
We have a lot of new construction going on around here too. And so like the bulldozer things are, they crush the sidewalk. And it's the same sort of thing. Like, you never know, like the sidewalks will be all beaten up and there's chunks of cement all over the place. So I do the same thing. I just go as far around as possible.
Safer that way.
You're probably adding like half a mile to your run.
Yeah, it does. The old me would have been like, I am not going to take this detour. I'm going to power through it. And now the old, the new older me, it takes the safe route.
It's the wiser you. We need to reframe this, Krissy. It is the wiser you. You are wiser.
I guess. I miss the crazy days.
I know. You guys had a lot of fun, but it's not like you're not going to have fun when your journey forward. It just means you're going to take it a little bit easier, just a little bit.
That's true. But Tom, you make an interesting point about running the extra half a mile. For the last 2 marathons, I ran, I think, 2 miles over. So it was actually like 28 point something miles, because I'm giving every kid the high five. I'm zigzagging. I'm grabbing the glass of champagne. Like, I was not running in a straight line. It was like every high five,
That's amazing.
Yeah, that wouldn't be me. I mean, it wouldn't be me.
It would never be you.
If it was me, it wouldn't be me. I'd be like,
you would be like, this is not a perfectly straight line. Move so I can walk in the straight line.
Or at like the 23-mile mark, I'd be like, nope, says 26.2. Somebody bring me a medal.
I know, you get to that point. I'm like, come on, people. Like, I am now almost 2 miles over and I'm still not at the finish line. Well, and they paint a line in the road. So like, the fastest way. So all I have to do is follow the blue line. If you follow the blue line, you're going to go exactly 26.2 miles.
Yeah.
Unless you're me and I decide to high five all the kids and just zigzag my way.
But you had so much more fun.
I did.
Was it 2 miles worth of fun? I'm going to say it wasn't.
Maybe not.
No.
I could have done a little less high-fiving.
That kid doesn't even remember getting a high five. He didn't deserve that.
No.
He wasted your high five. Yeah. That's that kid. That's what I say.
I'm telling you. Yeah. Stinking kids.
Yeah.
I feel
I probably could have high-fived a few less people, but I was not going to be passing up the beers and the champagne, like the stuff that they were handing out on the course. That was well worth it.
If they were handing out chicken nuggets, maybe.
They would just have to have chicken nuggets every 6 inches for Tom. Like a little Pac-Man.
That's how we get you to do the marathon.
No,
I'll put a backpack of chicken nuggets and I'll run in front of you and I'll just drop it.
So I don't want to ruin your theory for you, but you know that they sell chicken nuggets at the store, right? I'm a grown man. I can just go buy chicken nuggets. I don't.
But are they expensive these? I don't know. I'll find a way to encourage you.
They'll never be so expensive that they would make running a marathon worth it.
But you could just walk it. No. Okay.
No. I would drive to the store. You're Uber slow. I'm just Uber. I would take an Uber to the store and buy myself some chicken nuggets. That's how that would work.
Well, I was going to say, I feel like you need to make like your rules of the marathon, like to make it the most fun. And I feel like one of them needs to be like, give lots of high fives, but not so many high fives that you have not more so than many. A mile
extra. Lengthens the race. Yeah.
There's a limit. Yeah. When Tracy and I did the Marine Corps marathon for years ago, it was the same thing. And we got to, and here in DC for that marathon at like mile 22, they set up this like local kind of drink. I think they call them runners with a drinking problem or drinkers with a running problem, but something like that. There's some little local group, and they set up a table, and we stopped. We were there for like, I don't know, 45 minutes, just eating, drinking beers. Carrie Beck, God love her, she brought her son Casey to like cheer us on, and she was tracking us, and then she got all worried because she's like, I don't know, we lost him at mile 22. Something must be injured. Wrong. And then we're like stumbling, at the mile 24.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Not all races are meant to be raced. A lot of them, most of mine are just meant to be fun.
I think that's a good
attitude to have.
It's a great attitude to have. I mean, honestly, I don't think that if you did not have that attitude and the whole group of people, like you guys like brought me in, you were very kind. If you hadn't had that attitude, there's no way I would have done it, because like we were team just finish for a reason. We just needed to finish. Like we didn't want time stressing us out. I mean, I was still stressed because it's me, but
Can we talk about that weekend though? Like that
Such
was
a good weekend.
magic.
It was.
Will you ever forget that? Because I will
won't.
never ever forget that.
I won't. I mean, I see pictures of Tom over at the comic book store, and I'm like, oh, I don't remember because I was hanging out with my friends.
Yeah. We weren't there. There's so much that they did that we missed.
No, we just drove to Red Bank and back to see the secret stash.
Oh yeah, that was a blast. It really was. That was a lot of fun. That was a whole wonderful time. Maybe
It's so
someday
funny.
we'll do something like that again. That would be amazing.
Oh, we definitely should. I mean, that was just such, I don't know. I felt like that was a prime time, at least for me, and like with Peloton and the friends and the connections and just how life just unfolded, and we all became friends for a really messed up reason, but it worked, and like we've gotten woven into each other's lives and like know each other's children and spouses, and like it's really just such a magical, wonderful time.
It was. I remember you were like the first one like out the door that morning. We were like had to catch up with you.
I like to be there very early, very early.
Yeah. Well, I would be more than happy to do that. I feel like not only was it a magical time in like Peloton's history, but I feel like it's those connections are what made me like want to keep doing the podcast and want to meet all the people. Like I really wish that I could just like sit down and meet all the people who have done all these things, because that's what drives me to do more. That's what I love about the podcast, is getting to hear stories like these, and it really does inspire me just as a person to like try to do more with my own, like what other things can I do? You know, you guys posed that question. I never thought I could run 13 miles. I had never run more than a mile in my life, and 13 sounded like insanity. So
I remember when Stephen Little would talk about doing 2 45-minute rides in a row.
Yes.
And I thought that was insanity, you know, like,
yeah.
But then you do it, and then it's the next thing. Like, what? Okay, if I can do that, what am I going to push myself to do after that?
That
you know?
is
And
so
it just,
true.
It compounds on top of itself.
It does. And yeah, the swimming thing, I still have not gotten down because COVID happened and I kind of stopped going to swim lessons. But in a perfect world, that would be nice to be able to do. But it is a lot of work, and doing a triathlon is a lot of work. So I think you got something there with the whole Olympic distance. It's like fun to do, but not so much that it completely ruins any social life that you have outside of that.
Have your kids do some research to see how many people die during Olympic triathlons.
Well, the one when I went to nationals in Ohio, it was an Olympic, and a guy died during that.
Oh my gosh.
That's
We have
crazy.
another local open water swim here that a few years ago a guy died, and like the thought of like I don't know, it's so sad and awful.
Yeah,
and
it
like,
is.
It is. Yeah. I remember
And
whenever
I
you
did
guys
that-
swam in Atlantic City, it was like real gross. Like there was all that, everybody had black on them when they got out, and then we were like, what
Yep.
happened? Did you guys just swim through an oil slick? What just happened? Like I have no idea how
it's
you
crazy.
did it. It is
It's crazy. Well, and I did the Alcatraz triathlon where I
Yes.
jumped off the boat at Alcatraz and swam to San Francisco Bay, and that was like freezing cold, waves, wildlife, like jet ski. So every breath you're just like sucking in. I mean, it was just. That was a slow one too, but you know, I'm like, I don't know. I can see how people die. I really can. I don't want to be turning up in the bottom of a body of water. So we'll see. We'll see. I like it. I love open water swimming, even though I'm a terrible swimmer. If it's like calm waters, I think it's really fun. It's peaceful.
Back to Lake Placid for that.
Oh my gosh, the most beautiful swim ever. That was like magical.
I hope to someday get to see it. You know, with us kind of going back in time, we need to repeat what your leaderboard name is for people who don't know.
Krissy Blackwood, the most unoriginal KRISSY.
One of the
Blackwood.
perks of starting at the beginning.
Yeah, see, it's not unoriginal. That's because you were an original buyer. That's why.
Yes.
So not unoriginal, it's original. Now, do you have the same, like you have the Lululemon studio, you have Tonal, are you Krissy Blackwood across all?
Everything.
All
Everything.
leaderboards.
They're all the same. They are all the same. Yes.
Smart
I am.
branding.
I try to. You'll never guess what my email address is, Krissy.blackwood@gmail.com. Keep it as simple as possible.
If it ain't broke, man.
That's right. That's right.
Well, it makes it easy to remember.
It does. Oh, Crystal.
Yes.
The London studio, Peloton,
God,
London.
how did we forget this?
We forgot.
Yes.
How did we forget that? How cool is that?
Tell me all about your visit.
Okay, so this was a bit crazy. So so here's another thing about this whole trip to Europe is I didn't actually book most of it until like 2 weeks beforehand because I was convinced I was going to get hurt. Aww. So at the same time, I was like, the hotels I booked in advance because A, you can get your money back, and B, those sell out like within minutes. But the rest I knew I had a little bit of leeway on. So at the same time, I'm actually booking flights for everybody and like solidifying that this whole thing's actually going to happen. I was like, oh my gosh, I should see if I can get into the London studio. And Jocelyn Thompson Rule, God love her. I mean, it was like divine intervention. It worked out that the day before the London Marathon, she had a 30-minute walk. Because I'm also not one of those, I don't do shakeout runs anymore, again, because I'm terrified of hurting myself. So if I can get to a week before the race, I'm not going to run. I'm going to do crap. I'm going to sit on my butt and do nothing because I don't want to hurt myself. So she also had a run earlier that day. I'm like, oh no way, I'm not doing a run, but there is a walk. So I got on and there was a wait list. So I got myself on the wait list, and I was on the wait list for weeks. And then all of a sudden, and it was just like, I know nothing about London. So I looked up where the studio was. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's actually really close to our hotel. Like, so everything just seemed to work out. I show up there that morning and Leanne comes out from a ride and I was like, so I get out my phone and take a picture and she's like, hey, you want to take a selfie? I'm like, of course I want to take a selfie. It's like a fun picture with Leanne. And then we got in for Jocelyn's class, and sure enough, I don't think there was anyone not from the United States in that studio.
That's funny.
And 80% of them were all doing the London Marathon the next day.
Oh,
Jocelyn she did a big thing about it. It was really awesome. I also, as we sort of touched on, have terrible luck that I have terrible weather every race I ever do. And it was supposed to be a complete washout on Sunday for the marathon. And so we were all complaining, and Jocelyn's like, we're going to do a manifest. So at the beginning of the class, she's like, to the rain gods, please don't show up, like let these people run. And then sure enough, I woke up the next morning and the forecast went from a complete washout to like no rain at all. So
oh my God.
Jocelyn's writing me, and I know the others, and we were like, oh my God, I can work. The manifest can work. So yeah, I attribute the good weather to her. But the studio is beautiful. Luckily, I was able to go to the New York studios and did a bunch of classes there in August. But that was the first time I was at the New York studio. The London one is almost identical, just in a much smaller scale. But it's very, very similar feel. The way that it's set up on different floors and the locker rooms and all that. Well, the only thing that's weird about the locker rooms there is there's no men's room and no women's room. It's just one locker room.
Oh.
Interesting.
I do triathlon, so I'm not I don't care who I'm getting changed in front of. But yeah, like they're just like little stalls that you go in and change. Huh. But there's no.
Nope. I'm gonna need some privacy for that. Yep.
Yeah. So
good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, but what a blast that was. It was. I can't believe that happened either. I'm like, I feel like all of this is just all the pieces are falling into place and it's just working out so perfectly.
It was supposed to be.
And that's really how the whole thing. Yeah, it's how the whole thing went down. So I finished these last 2 races without injury. I felt great afterwards. I traveled around with my kids and my husband and got to hang out with Jocelyn and the other marathon folks in the studio. It was really awesome.
That is so cool. Did you get to meet any of the other instructors? Did you see any of the German instructors? I'm kind of fascinated by the fact that they live there and that they do classes out of it, but they're from Germany, and I know that it's not super far, but still, it must be kind of strange to not be home,
Yeah. No, I just saw Leanne and Jocelyn. That was it. But their schedule's a little different, so yeah. So that was all I got to see. But I was thrilled that I got to do it. And the Leanne with volunteering the selfie was even better. It was icing on the cake.
She's like, oh, those crazy Americans.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. But of course, I bought. Do you remember the old Peloton and the 23rd Street studios, like the water bottles?
Oh yeah.
Well, so they still have those in London.
What?
Yeah, so I took a couple of those home with me. I got the London studio towels. I was like, if I'm here, I got to pick up on this the London merchandise.
Yeah, did you get
Lord
like
knows I
the
have enough from here.
London T-shirt and the London? When I was in New York, I had to get the hoodie and I had to get the bra and the leggings. And Tom actually went and got the hoodie for me.
Yeah, she wouldn't buy the hoodie for
I was
herself.
like,
and
that's too far. That's
I was like,
too
this
much.
is dumb. You're going to get home and be like, why did I buy that hoodie? So when she was in the class, I just went and bought it.
You're a good man. See, when we do crazy things like classes and races, he's off doing, some good things for you.
He is. He's a good support. We all have good support. We all have very good race support.
I am an athletic supporter.
Wouldn't be the first time. Huh? Oh, too funny.
Well, so have you changed any of your favorite instructors?
No, I love them all, but they're the tried and true. From a running standpoint, Becs will always have a soft spot in my heart. I was like fangirling on her from the day that the tread came out, and I was one of the lucky ones who got invited to get like the tread in advance.
Oh, yeah.
Before it was even like thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I love her. I love seeing her in Austin's journey. When I was there in August, I took one of her classes and Austin was there too. So like that was super fun. But Wilpers for all things running and biking and all he's so smart and knows so much. Jenn Sherman, I love her. Alex, I love him. Christine, love her. I mean, I could go on and on. I love them all.
Well, you're a good support for them too. It's nice. Because you've been part of Peloton for a really long time, and that people who have just joined Peloton don't necessarily know that love is that strong, and that's how long it's been going. And I mean, that really shows when you have that much love for that many instructors who you've been riding with for years. That's really cool.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because, there's one woman that I work with just recently got a bike. And so, and I tell her some of these stories and she's like, I don't think she can really believe it because it's such a different thing. And I'm like, you don't understand. Like, if you go on Alex Toussaint's Facebook page, it's a picture of him with my son. Like, that's just how that's how it was. It's just, you get to know these people on a personal level. And she's like, I don't understand how you. She's like, I just don't get it.
It was a different time.
Totally different time. But I will be forever grateful for it because it brings me to you and the friends and that are now family. That it feels like the memories. Like none of this would have happened if it didn't start with this one-wheeled bike that doesn't go anywhere.
Absolutely.
It's wild.
Absolutely, 100%.
So here we are doing triathlons and marathons and all sorts of craziness. But it's awesome.
It is.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us. We really appreciate it.
We do.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. This is fun. It's been too long.
It has. We need to have a check-in. We got to get the whole gang together and do something fun. That would be cool.
We do.
And I'll go to the secret stash.
Maybe you could have a beer with us first, a drink first, Tom.
How about a chicken nugget?
Okay, he can have a chicken nugget.
Okay.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, thank you again for doing this. And is there anything that you want to share with everybody? We need to tell people where to find you.
Like we
Krissy Blackwood everywhere.
Yeah,
okay, that's fair.
Instagram, Facebook, it's all the same. I just think thank you for you guys and always being so supportive. And Crystal, it's just been so fun to be a part of your journey from afar. And I hope that we can get together again soon and sort of reignite the craziness and do it all in person again now post-COVID.
I would genuinely love that. I hope that we can. That would be amazing.
The Clip Out.
So I guess that brings this episode to a close. Until next week, where can people find you?
People can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Crystal D. O'Keefe. They can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and for now. And also the Peloton leaderboard at ClipOutCrystal.
And you can find me on Twitter at Roger Kubert or on Facebook at facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. You can find the show online at facebook.com/The Clip Out. While you're there, like the page, join the group. And of course, don't forget our YouTube channel, at youtube.com/theclipout. You can see Crystal bump her head. So it's just little extra treats we throw in for you to lure you over to our YouTube channel. So that's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, keep pedaling.
And running.
Clip in.